Well, hello, my collecting brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well. With the 2024 National just about a week and a half away, I offer to you, free of charge, in no particular order, Vintage Sanctuary's top 10 national tips. Now, these are tips regarding picking up cards, although certainly connecting with people at the National cannot be overstated. So let's get rolling. Tip number 1, get your big purchase first. All right, you're looking at my big purchase from the 2022, my first National. Got this on Wednesday night. It was in a PSA Authentic, and I hung on to it for maybe 8 or 9 months, wondering why it did not get a numerical grade before I finally sent it in the PSA slab to SGC, and it got this tremendous 2.5. Rest in peace, Willie. I mean, this card is so stunning. Now, when I was at the 2022 National, I was looking at the 52 Topps Willie Mays cards. That's a card I really, really wanted. And but I thought it would probably be out of my range. I thought there was a good chance it would be out of my range for sure. But I looked at Authentics, I looked at ones, SGC ones, PSA ones, heck, BVG ones. And the ones tended to be really beat up, and they were going for substantially more than this Authentic. And so this Authentic it called to me, it spoke to me. And I thought, yeah, the eye appeal is there. I really wanted something that had a nice surface. And it's clean, it's sharp, it's vibrant, and it was, possibly the least expensive one you could find at the 22 National. So I don't think it would have lasted long. So glad I snarfed it up. And then I'm super stoked, of course, that it crossed over, because I did. I really would have preferred a numerical grade, but, my eyes. I could not deny what my eyes were telling me, which is this card is absolutely stunning, and it was at a great price, and it's a card that I really, really wanted. So I said, okay, I'll make an exception. I'll get this just Authentic. It did not say Authentic altered on the PSA slab. It just said Authentic. I'll make this exception. But then, I got fortunate. I got lucky. I was blessed because I got the best of both worlds. I crossed it over. And if this had been in an SGC 2.5, it would have been way out of my budget. Now, why do we get the big purchase first? Because if we spend our money on less expensive purchases, then our dream card or one of our dream cards, one of our Grail cards, I'm a person that loves multiple Grail cards. I'm just going to roll with it. I know my friends have kind of given me a little bit of a hard time, half in jest, that you can only have one Grail. Well, to me, there's lots of Grails or lots of dream cards. One of them might just come along, and if you've already spent some of your money on less expensive cards, then you might be bummed out, and you're going to miss that opportunity. So that's my number one tip from the Vintage Sanctuary for the National. Get your big card first. All right, on to tip number 2. If you make a mistake in buying at the National, consider selling it at the National. Now, this card is not a mistake, but I just wanted to show it. Fairly recent pickup. I have shown it before, though. The 96 Finest Barry Bonds refractor. Now, he has 3 refractors from 1996. This is the first year of multiple Finest refractors for Barry Bonds, or for others for that matter. And I am blessed to have all 3. But I wanted to go ahead and show this one. Just, the spirit kind of moved me. I wanted to show this. This is so sweet. The first gold refractor of Barry Bonds. And as mentioned, that card is not a mistake by any means. Feel like I'd like to get a little better focus here. Let's see if that helps. I think that's better. That card is not a mistake by any means, but it gives you something to look at. I wanted to show a card with each tip. So last year at the 2023 National, I bought a 54 Topps Jackie Robinson, and I pretty much spent up my money, and I love the 54 Topps Jackie Robinson, but and it was a really nice card. It was in an SGC 5, but here's the deal. It had a chip. a chip on it where the paper was kind of folded over on the top edge in that yellow, because that card does not have a white border on the top. So that chip was right on that yellow border on top, and it may not have bugged others, but it was bugging me, and I was kind of bummed out. The lighting just wasn't as good as it could have been at that particular dealer's table. Maybe I should have, asked if I could move to better lighting or something. But anyway, I realized that night as I was kind of bummed out, hey, you're at the biggest card show in the world. Go sell or trade this thing if it's not the copy for you. So I only had to shop it around to, maybe a handful of dealers before a dealer gave me right around, I think, 90% of what I paid, maybe a little more, but about 90% of what I paid. So yeah, I took a little hit, but I wasn't excited about the card. It wasn't the copy for me. And so I went ahead and moved it right then, right there, got cash, and only took a 10% hit. That was fine. Fine for me to move out of a card that I just wasn't stoked about, to just own my mistake and move on. And here's the deal. If I had sold that card on eBay with fees, I probably would not have made out as well. And this moves us to tip number 3, be open to game time decisions. And so the reason this moves us to tip number 3 is because right after I sold the, not right after, later in the day, after I sold the 54 Topps Jackie the next day, I'm going by a table. Dave, Legends of the Dugout, is with me. And like a squirrel, I see some 93 Finest refractors at a table. And this was a really big table. And I thought, wonder if there's a Barry Bonds. So I start kind of scurrying down the display cases for this table. And I think, Dave moved on because he didn't know that I had, got distracted. But I think he ended up coming back. And sure enough, there was the Bonds refractor. Let me show this bad boy off. 93 Finest Barry Bonds refractor in a mint 9. Oh, the glorious shine. The very first of the Topps Finest refractors. And so, why am I calling this tip be open to game time decisions? Well, because I looked at the card and I thought, I'm going to go ahead and pass, because I had $900 roughly left in my wallet that was, budgeted for cards. And this was going for $1,400. This was from the Raleigh Fingers collection, I guess sort of a consignment. So there was no wiggle room. It was $1,400 or, no negotiation. Just you take it or leave it at $1,400. And I was like, I'm just going to take this dealer's card, and maybe in a couple months, I will get back to him. But then I'm like, I just made a game time decision. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take my $900. I'm going to PayPal friends and family the other $500. I'm going to not buy too many cards for a while. So I'm just going to kind of go in debt to myself, so to speak, based on my hobby budget. And I am so glad I did. So I was open to a game time decision, and I tell you what, I was so stoked to bring this one home. And the price, I don't know if it's went up, down, sideways, but I'm really, really stoked to have that card. And now it's the key refractor now that I'm working on some Bonds refractors. Obviously, I'm not going to get every Bonds refractors. Some are really rare, but I'm trying to get, at least one from each year. Well, to get at least one from each year, from even, they don't have to be Topps Finest, could be Topps Chrome, could be Bowman Chrome, but I'm going to need one from 93. And so this becomes a key piece to my Barry Bonds refractor run that I'm working on, at least a run that I've defined as at least one Barry Bonds refractor that I like from each year, starting in 1993. All right, number 4. Tip number 4, Vintage Sanctuary's top 10 national tips. Never buy if it does not feel right. Now, regardless of how many cards the dealer has shown you, regardless of how much time this dealer has spent with you, don't feel pressured to buy if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't satisfy both your head and your heart. The head often has to do with budget, of course. But the head can also do with whether or not this card is a priority or fits into one of your collecting focuses. And the heart, of course, has a lot to do with how that card is just speaking to you, calling to you, and screaming to you, buy me, I collect me. Because there's just something about it that just, brings you joy, or that there's a coolness factor, either based on the look or the history or the nostalgia or a personal connection with that card or that player. But anyway, if it doesn't feel right, even if you're just kind of like, meh, this could maybe work, it doesn't matter how much time the dealer spent with you. Just say, thank you for your time. I'll give these some consideration, and just move on. You can always potentially come back. If anything bugs you about the card, it's probably going to bug you more after you buy it and you've had time to kind of, settle down after the emotions of making a purchase, especially a big one. So if something doesn't feel right in your gut, never buy if it doesn't feel right. Okay, the card I'd like to show you now, this is not a national purchase, but I don't know how many of these cards I looked at, online, mostly eBay for sure, probably, hundreds of them, maybe, until I found just the right one that satisfied my head and my heart, the 53 Topps Mickey Mantle in a fabulous Relic 1.5. Now, how did it satisfy my head? I had the money, and being a 1.5, it fit my budget. And how did it satisfy my heart? The vibrancy of the colors, that's what I wanted. Look how sweet that rectangle is. Look how sharp that red corner is. I really, really love that. Now, did I give on some things? Sure, it's centered high, which doesn't bother me a bit for this card because, with that light color of the sky, I don't think you really even notice it. And centered high gives you an even higher red rectangle, which I love, gives you more red rectangle. But here's the deal. It's got all these, I think it was maybe rubber banded or something. It's got all of these crinkles on the front and on the back. So that might trouble someone. You can really see them there. Gem Mint 10, crinkly wrinklies, well-spaced and uniform. That might trouble someone. But that doesn't trouble me a bit. So I am super stoked to have this card. This is my forever 1.5. Like, I'll never feel any need to try to upgrade this. For one thing, it was already a stretch. It's already a spendy card. So never buy if it doesn't feel right. Just wait until the right copy comes along, the one that speaks to you. Now I realize some people are looking for well-loved cards. They don't mind some creases and this and that and the other, and some troubles, if you will, or they might call it signs that the card has been well loved, and they just want to get, a low price, and they're okay if the card has lots of issues. And so, of course, if that's your strategy, if that's the way that you enjoy collecting, well, then roll with it, of course. These are Vintage Sanctuary's top 10 national tips. So really, I'm saying, this is what works for me. Never buy if it doesn't feel right. I would say, however, even if you're somebody who doesn't mind or you enjoy collecting well-loved cards with lots of condition issues, of course, still don't buy if it doesn't feel right to you. All right, we're on to tip number 5. If there is something sweet. Now, what do I mean by something sweet? It's a card or a memorabilia piece that's just really, really calling to you. The price, maybe the price is really good for the item. Maybe it has exceptional eye appeal for the grade. Maybe it's tough to find. Maybe it's scarce or rare. And you're not going to have, many opportunities. If it's just really calling to you, something sweet on Wednesday night, get it then, or Thursday morning at the latest. Now, I realize not everybody gets to the National and is able to go on Wednesday night. So, hey, you do what you can, right? But if you're able to be there Wednesday night and you see something sweet that's calling to you, get it then, or at least get it on Thursday morning, because it's probably going to call to some others as well, and it's not going to hang around. So Thursday night of the 2023 National, or Wednesday night, I was looking at a dealer's table. He had this card, and I was like, I don't know, because it was going to be my big national purchase if I bought it. And of course, it is a lot of money. Well, that's kind of, often the case if it's your big national purchase. But I don't know, big national purchase. Do I want to spend that much on this card? Like, do I want to pull the trigger? Because then this is the big card, and it's in a 1, and, it's got some wear on the corners and other little issues here and there. Am I going to be happy with it? And so I did not pull the trigger. I did not buy it that night. But then when the national floor closed on Wednesday night, and ultimately ended up back at the hotel room, and I was blessed to share a room with Dylan, Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. I told him, I said, yeah, I had some time to think about it. I'm like, yeah, I really want that card. I don't think it's going to hang around. I said, as soon as the show floor opens Thursday morning, I'm going to zip in there, go right to that booth, and pick this thing up. And so he went with me, good buddy that he is. In fact, this inspired him because he really wanted this card too. Not necessarily this copy, although he would have bought this copy if I didn't. Now, I'm really stoked for him because, maybe a couple months after the National or so, he got one himself that's just absolutely glorious. Well, without further ado, it is the 38 Gaudy Joe DiMaggio in a pristine 1 with cartoons. I tell you what, to me, this is his rookie card because it's his first mainstream U.S. issue. By that definition. Now, others would say, that something else is his rookie card. But here's the deal. Whether it's the rookie or not, you know what? This is the card that I really, really wanted. I mean, I don't know. I love the cartoons. Absolutely love them. And there's something about this card, tough card, that is just off the charts nostalgic for me. Even though this one has all sorts of issues, these are tough. And I tell you what, even in a grade of 2, this goes to the moon and is, this would be out of my budget even in a grade of 2. So I was super stoked. I have not regretted this big purchase at all. And, it's got the main thing, which is, I think the color is solid and Joe D is just so glorious. And I am super stoked. Let me give you a look at the back here. And I can tell you for certainty that this card would have been gone if I had not bought it when I did. Because Thursday night at the YouTube get-together, I was showing off this beauty, the Joe D. And one of my fellow YouTubers had indicated that he was going to buy that card that day. He even showed me the text string with the dealer. He was going to the National. This very card was going to be his big pickup. And, I felt a little bit bad for him, but he did end up getting another big pickup, a pre-war card he was pretty stoked about, so I'm happy for him there. I hope that, he's got his Joe D at some point. But I know for a fact this would have been gone later on Thursday had I not bought it when I did. And if not by that particular YouTuber who was absolutely going to buy it, perhaps by somebody else as well, because this thing was just, screaming out of that display case to anyone who had those sorts of bucks. It was $2,600, so, not cheap by any means, screaming by me. All right, we are on to tip number 6. Listen to the advice of your friends. So I was blessed to hang out with Dylan quite a bit. And as we were hanging out, I think this was probably on Thursday, could have been Friday. I think maybe it was Friday. But anyway, somewhere in there, he said to me, that's a really nice card. And he wasn't looking for it, but he's like, yeah, that's a really nice card. Basically, you should consider that one. And so I thought about it and I tried to negotiate with the dealer and I got him down, I think I offered less than $400 and the dealer kind of got upset because that was below comps at the time. It was, I don't know that it was a lowball offer, but it was on the low side. Anyway, I thought about it for a while. I think it was maybe a couple hours later. I went back to that table, kind of did a little mea culpa and said, hey, I didn't mean to, offend you with my earlier offer, but, I'm offering you $400 now. If that's something that can work, I would be happy. I would love to purchase that card from you. And so here it is, without further ado, the first solo card of Nolan Ryan in a sweet 6.5. I mean, wow. And so, of course, Dylan wasn't saying, Adam, you absolutely should buy that card. He was just pointing out that is a really nice card. And at least at that time, the price seemed reasonable too. And again, I don't know, that may have come down some in value, but at the time, $400 for that card was a solid buy. And I tell you what, centering is really tough on these. And yeah, that's a little bit off left to right. Not left to right. Left to right is really nice, but a little off top to bottom, but totally satisfies my eye. I think that's a gem. I'm going to call that a gem mint 6.5. So that was tip number 6, to go with the 6.5. Listen to the advice of your friends. Again, Dylan wasn't saying you must buy that card. He was just saying really, really nice card there, Adam, and that's something that could really go well in your collection. And my mind kept coming back to it, and he influenced me, inspired me, just like I had inspired him as well. All right, tip number 7, let the cards come to you. Don't force it. Taking money home is better than paying more than you want to pay, or buying something for, say, $200, and then you see something else you'd rather have for $200. So this is really a tip about, don't go buying purchases that are okay, that are, nice cards that could fit in your collection, but they end up not being a priority because, you wish later on in the show, or even when you go home, you wish that you had kind of waited and had that money instead of the card. So this might seem sort of crazy, but I am now going to show I've got, some money set aside for the National. Here's $200, which is, part of the money I have set aside for the National. So I'm going to put it right up here. There we go. And display it. There's the $200. So here's a tip that you can use. Let me show you a card that I bought at the National. And this would be the 2022 National. And I ended up spending exactly $200 for it. Maybe it's went down in price some. I wouldn't be surprised, but I really don't know. Once I have a card, I tend not to check the prices so much, or almost never actually. But 71 Topps, number 400, Hank Aaron. This is my only 71 Topps at this time. That's just a little glorious white print dot there. But look at this. Well-centered, black beauty. Wow, wow. So I absolutely love this card. So if right now, if today, heck, if one of you was over today at my house and you saw this card, the 71 Topps Hank Aaron and a 6.5, back-to-back 6.5s, and you said, hey, Adam, I'll give you $200 for that. You know what? Even if I looked up comps, and even if this is going for less now, and again, I really don't know, maybe it's going more or less the same, I'd be like, I really appreciate it, but that's okay. I would rather have this card than $200. So here's the litmus test I was talking about. When you're getting ready to make a purchase, and of course, it doesn't have to be $200. That's just an example. Try to ask yourself the question, maybe later today or tomorrow or the next day, even though I like this card, would I rather have the $200 and the spending power, the literal spending power that it not just represents, but that it gives? Would I rather have this $200 later on today after the excitement of this purchase kind of calms down, or tomorrow or the next day when I'm looking around the show floor? Would I rather have the $200 or the $100 or the $50 or however much we're talking about here? And so I went ahead and pulled out a card that I spent exactly $200 on, and I can tell you that I would absolutely rather hang on to this glorious 71 Topps Hank Aaron. This is my forever 71 Topps Hank Aaron. All right, let's see. That was, what tip was that? Oh yeah, that was tip number 7. Let the cards come to you. Don't force it. Meaning, don't make, poor purchases that you're going to regret because maybe you end up not caring for the card that much, or it doesn't really speak to you. But also, consider not even making mediocre purchases that you might be like, yeah, this is all right. Why not really prioritize and only buy something that's a great fit, that you're super stoked about, that you've been picky about, and the right one has came along for you. Now, here's the deal. If you get to your last day at the show and you've used this strategy, employed this strategy, and you've got a lot of bucks left over, well, you can go ahead and, spend those then if you want. So I don't think you can get hurt with tip number 7. Let the cards come to you. Don't force it. Now, tip number 8. After your big purchase, have some money left over so you can still enjoy the shopping. Still enjoy shopping. Let me show you a card. So last year, after I had gotten my big purchase and, maybe a couple other purchases, I'm walking by a dealer's table. He had this at 80. It grabbed my eye and I was like, oh man. This, my friends, he had it at 80. I offered him 70. He took it. I was on cloud, Gem Mint 3. Oh, I love this card. And here's the deal. If I didn't have any money left over, I would have been out of luck. This might be one of the most underrated 52 Topps cards. The registration, this card was a blurry image on the picture to start with, the original picture. So this is really nice registration. This is really nice centering. This is freaking really nice everything. This card is insane. And that's an understatement. Yeah. I mean, this card is absolutely insane. $70. And if I had not had the $70, I would have just had to pass. Wow. The big cat, Johnny Mize. Now, I guess I could have, maybe taken the dealer's number and maybe it would have been available and I could have got it from him, later on down the road through the mail. So I suppose that's a possibility. But that tip is after your big purchase, have some money left over so you can still enjoy shopping. Why? Because something will come along probably that you really want at a nice price like this Johnny Mize, and you will not be able to take advantage of it because you're broke. Plus, being broke can be a psychological downer. Now, this depends on the individual, but for me, I can tell you, when I ran out of money at the National last year, after I'd bought the Jackie Robinson, I was kind of bummed out. And I think it's because I had been on a high. Here I was at the biggest card show. I had all this money to spend, and now I was out of bucks. I was broke, so to speak. And so I was pretty bummed out about it. Now, some of you, that may not bother you psychologically, so that's an individual thing. But being broke can be a psychological downer that can lead to quite a low after being on such a national high. Now, I realize if your dream card comes along or your grail card and you need to spend every penny you have to get it and then make that sacrifice and not be able to do any more shopping, totally get that, totally respect it, of course. But my tip, if possible. So for example, let's say you've got $1,000. Maybe your big purchase is $700 so that you've got $300 to get some smaller purchases. Or let's say you've got $2,000. Maybe your big purchase is, $1,200 or $1,000 or $1,500. So you've got some bucks left over to make some medium and smaller purchases. All right, let's see. That was number 8. Now we're going to move on to number 9. Number 9 is keep it simple. Now, I like to carry a small notepad. Now, I realize I could keep notes in my phone, but it's just easier for this way. Maybe because I'm 60 years old and I'm an older guy. That I'm more old school, but I keep this small notepad. I can write down the table number of a card if I'm, and the asking price, if I'm considering coming back to it, the dealer's name. If I meet a YouTuber, I can write down their name, maybe their phone number, and put it in my phone later. It keeps it simple for me. I can do that later, Anything I need to write down, the address of the YouTube get-together, the time of the YouTube get-together, just basically any notes I want to keep. I like to keep it simple. I realize this is a little bit more of a national tip and less of a card showing tip, but really, it's just a blatant excuse to share my 49-leaf Stan Musial in a pristine one. Does this have anything to do with my tip? Hell no. It's just a blatant excuse. Look at that. That is screaming gorgeous. That, my friends, is what we call a pristine one with a Gem Mint 10 pinhole perfectly centered. This was not a comma card. I am so stoked. I couldn't hit by it now fast enough. It's got a little bit of, when you look at the corners here, really, really nice. Oh, the ink is nice and thick on the back. Really, really nice. In my humble opinion, without that pinhole, this would be a 4, maybe 4.5. I mean, because the color is strong, the registration, which is often off, is spot on. I mean, heck, maybe possibly a 5 without the pinhole, but of course the pinhole brings it down, which I love. I would buy cards like this with a pinhole, at low prices with this type of eye appeal. I would do that all day long if I could find them. So yes, that was a blatant excuse to show off my 49 leaf Stan Musial in a pristine one. But the tip was keep it simple. That's a tip that works for me. I really do keep it pretty simple. I don't carry a lot with me on the national floor. I won't get into all that, but I look for all sorts of ways to just simplify, keep it simple. Tip number 10, get into Zen mode and go with the flow. It's supposed to be fun. It's a hobby. Share your pickups with others and share in their joy, even if what they picked up would not be something you would collect. All right, let me show you something that a lot of you don't collect. This is the Judge. The 2022 Allen & Ginter Chrome Aaron Judge Gold Refractor out of 50. It's like a 1. Looks like a 1 to me. But they called it a 10. No, I guess it's a 10. Whatever. I probably couldn't tell the difference if it said 9 or maybe even 8. But anyway, I'm collecting, mostly versions of his base Topps card or base Topps Chrome card from 2022. But I couldn't help but snag this bad boy. So judge me or don't judge me. But, we can share in each other's joy. Even for people who do not collect modern, they can share in my joy on this pickup. Or for those of you who collect things that, they would not have been a priority for me, or I would not have spent my money in that way, or it's just not, it's something I can appreciate, or maybe even I just wouldn't really want. If you're stoked about it, if it fits your collection, if you're in love with it, if it works for you, if it does something for you, then I can share in your joy. So, get into Zen mode, go with the flow, share in the joy of your hobby brothers and sisters. And what about kind of Zen mode? Well, I am bringing a card to the National. Now, I'm not prepared to show it now. It's a big card. Sold a little bit on the coin front, getting pretty low there. I got a big card. I'm taking it to the National. Here's where the Zen mode comes in. I'm either going to trade it, probably with some cash for something else, or I'm going to come home with it. And I'm truly fine either way. That's the Zen mode. And if I come home with it, that means I'll be showing it off at the National, and I'll be bringing it home and showing it off in a future video. And if I don't come home with it, that means in a future video, I'll show a picture of it and say, yeah, and that got leveraged in order to get this other big card. So I'm going with the flow. Am I taking some cash with me? Absolutely. But I'm also taking a big card that I got within the last, month or so that I actually think I got a better deal on online than I could have got at the National. That's I guess you could call it a gamble. I don't think it's much of a gamble, though. The price I paid and how nice this card is, I actually think I'll be able to leverage it for some epic trade at the National. And if I do not, or I cannot, that's okay. I'm happy to bring it home. So get into Zen mode, go with the flow. We're not going to end on the Judge, however. When I thought about Zen mode, this card just came to my mind. I don't know why, but I don't know. I just thought, do I have any cards in my collection that just sort of feel like Zen mode to me? Well, this is the one, the 1954 Red Art Dog Food Stan Musial in a gem mint 4. Now, maybe this has nothing to do with Zen mode. I don't know. This is Zen mode for me, or maybe I just wanted an excuse to show this bad boy off again. Wow. I know, what's kind of cool is, as people have told me, well, I've watched their videos and they've mentioned, what they're potentially targeting at the National. And for some of them, it's a hard target. It's like, I really want that card and I'm going to try very hard to come back from the National with that card. I'm going to target it aggressively. Some people have that approach. For me, that's not my approach. There's cards I have in mind. There's several of them. I'm going to go kind of into a Zen mode and sort of see where the journey takes me, be open to the possibilities. But it's been cool to watch this community and to see how, there's a number of people who are targeting the 54 Red Heart Stand Musial, and I'm blessed to have that. And then I see people targeting cards that I don't have, that I want as well. So, their target could be my target. And then, of course, there's lots of people who have cards that I'd like to add at some point in the future, but I don't have them yet. And so, my targets are already in their collection. Well, hey, it's a journey. Some people have been at this a long time, and so they've got some epic collections they've built up over the years. All right, let me go ahead and, wow, what a place to end, huh? The 2 Musials. Let me turn this around. And let me just say, man, I'm all stoked for the National now. Thank you for sharing in my joy. Whether you're going to the National or not, I hope you'll be able to have some joy around this time by maybe living vicariously through others, or maybe you're able to go to a local card show. I know it's not quite the same thing, but maybe there's someone you can connect with there, or maybe just watching the videos, interacting in the comments, watching some of the National videos, or maybe making yourself a nice purchase online during the time of the National, something that you can still remember this National by. That's okay, even if you couldn't go this year. I mean, it's expensive. It's quite a commitment. You could still get something online. In fact, you might snap up a deal because so many dollars are, being held back or being spent at the National. You might snap up a nice deal. That can remind you of the National in some way. You can even share it on your channel and say, hey, I didn't get to go in 2024, or I haven't been able to go ever, but it's my dream maybe someday, but I got this during the National online, and it kind of reminds me of my goal that I want to get there someday. These are just some thoughts, my collecting brothers and sisters. Thank you for sharing in my joy. I hope you had a wonderful and peaceful time in the Vintage Sanctuary.